in the quiet town of Toledo, Ohio, where the streets are lined with brick homes and the wind carries the scent of old maple trees, there lived a man named Frank Delaney. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, but he was known for being steady, reliable, the kind of man who fixed his own roof, never missed a day of work, and never, not once, cried. Frank was 76 when I met him. He wore denim overalls even on Sundays, and his hands were thick with calluses from decades at the steel mill. His voice was low, like gravel under boots, and his eyes were the color of faded storm clouds. He had 3 grown children, all living in different states. His wife, Margaret, had passed away 5 years earlier, and since then, Frank had lived alone in the same house they bought in 1972. But what made Frank different wasn't his solitude, it was his silence. He had never cried, not when his father died, not when his youngest son moved away, not even when Margaret's hand went cold in his. Frank's story isn't rare. There are thousands of men like him across America. Men raised to believe that tears are weakness, that emotion is something to be buried, not expressed. In towns like Pittsburgh, Des Moines, and Birmingham, you'll find these men sitting quietly on porches, watching the world change around them, holding back a flood they were taught never to release. They are the men who never cried. Before we go deeper into Frank's story, let me pause for a moment. I'm Silas Reed, and this is The Silent House, a channel dedicated to understanding the emotional lives of older men, especially those who feel unheard. If this story resonates with you, or if you know someone like Frank, please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. Your support helps me keep telling these stories that matter. Now, let's return to Toledo. Frank grew up in a house where feelings were considered dangerous. His father, Walter, was a World War II veteran who believed in discipline, silence, and hard work. When Frank scraped his knee as a boy and cried, Walter said, "Dry it up, you're not a girl." When Frank's dog died, Walter handed him a shovel and said, "Bury it, then move on." So Frank learned. He learned to swallow grief like bitter medicine. He learned to smile when he was hurting. He learned to nod instead of speak. And over time, he forgot how to cry. When Margaret died, Frank didn't shed a tear. He sat in the front pew of the church, hands folded, eyes dry. His daughter, Emily, kept glancing at him, waiting for something, a crack, a tremble, a sign. But Frank stayed still. Later that night, alone in his kitchen, he poured himself a glass of bourbon and stared at the empty chair across from him. He whispered, "I miss you, Maggie." Then he turned off the light and went to bed. There's a cost to silence. Psychologists call it emotional suppression, and it's linked to depression, anxiety, and even physical illness. Men like Frank often suffer quietly, not because they don't feel, but because they don't know how to express what they feel. In group therapy sessions for seniors in Cleveland, facilitators often say the hardest part isn't getting men to talk, it's getting them to believe they're allowed to. One day, Frank attended a local veterans breakfast. He sat next to a man named Joe Ramirez, a retired firefighter from Detroit. Joe was loud, funny, and unapologetically emotional. He talked about his wife, his kids, his fears. He even cried when he mentioned his dog dying last year. Frank was stunned, not because Joe cried, but because no one judged him for it. After the breakfast, Frank walked home slowly. He sat on his porch and thought about all the times he wanted to cry, but didn't. He thought about Margaret, about his father, about the time his son told him, "You're hard to talk to, Dad." And for the first time in decades, Frank felt something shift. That night, Frank didn't cry, but he wrote a letter to Emily. It said, "I don't know how to say things I never learned, but I want you to know I feel everything. I just don't know how to show it." Emily called him the next day. They talked for 2 hours. This story isn't about tears, it's about permission. Permission to feel, permission to express, permission to be human. Men like Frank aren't broken, they're conditioned. Conditioned by generations of silence, by cultural expectations, by the fear of vulnerability. But it's never too late to unlearn. If you're watching this and you're a man who's never cried, or you know someone who hasn't, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not weak. You're human, and being human means feeling, even if it takes time, even if it's messy, even if it scares you. Thank you for staying with me through Frank's story. I'm Silas Reed, and this is The Silent House. If this video moved you,